This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Stick around to the end of the video to learn more about that. We are gathered here today to mourn the passing of Mario Party. To be honest, this service is long overdue. However, I know many of us here held out hope that somehow our good friend was still alive and well. But the time for such optimism has passed, as sad as it makes me to say such a thing. However, today we aren't gathered here only to mourn. No, we're gathered here to celebrate a life. And what better way is there to celebrate a life than a PowerPoint slideshow?
Mario Party is a party video game series featuring characters from the Mario...
No. That's not good enough. Because you see, Mario Party didn't just die. It was murdered. And I've been on the case for the better part of a month, trying to figure out who could have done such a ghastly thing and why. There are a number of suspects, each of them suspicious. But today, I have some good news for you folks, because this list has been narrowed down to a mere 4. And we're going to get to the bottom of this. The car, a truly dastardly specimen, and a being who strikes fear into the hearts of old-school Mario Party fans across the globe, nay, the universe. But why? Well, long ago, Mario Party was good, then everything changed when the car attacked. Or at least that's how the story goes. See, Mario Party 1 through 8 and DS were simple and had a nice balance to them. Most boards had a clear goal: collect stars and purchase them with coins. How do you get coins? Well, you can steal them from other players, get randomly handed them via board events, or win minigames. And therein lies the balance. Sure, there was always a lot of chance-based shenanigans, but there was also a healthy dose of strategy and skill. After all, players needed to weigh their options during the board sections of the game, deciding which course of action out of many would increase their odds of winning. Meanwhile, most minigames took skill to complete, whether that skill involved platforming, puzzle solving, button mashing, shooting, or whatever else. Because of this, players could probably win so long as they excelled in 2 out of these 3 areas. So yeah, if you have bad luck in a round, that's going to be a real problem. But by choosing the right options during the board game segment and by performing well in minigames, you can still win. There's always still hope of success. But with Mario Party 9 came the car, and when the car appeared, strategy vanished. Individual player choice and movement was replaced by a single vehicle where each player's dice roll also moved all the other players. Basically, it became a horrible road trip. We're talking traversing the country in a rusted out piece of crap without spare change for a night, even in the most sketchy motel kind of road trip. So, with the car, what happens to the items? I mean, some way or another, a lot of these items were related to where players were situated on the board. Whether that meant taking yourself to the star, moving the star, making someone roll a smaller die, making yourself roll a larger die, or you get the point. Well, they're all gone, along with all the other items that provided opportunities to screw over your opponents and bring on the rage train. Now that litany of items available in the previous games is reduced to 6 dice blocks with different numbers on them. That's all. These items also can't be purchased at shops, which are now non-existent. Instead, the players will get them if they land on certain spaces. So you might be wondering something. What do coins do? Well, coins don't exist anymore, and neither do stars. Instead, the player gets mini stars by placing well in minigames and happening upon them on the board. On top of all this, the board has been reduced to a straight line where everyone is stuck together despite working against each other. All in all, strategy is mostly gone. Unfortunately, this wasn't the last we'd see of the car either, because it made its comeback in Mario Party 10. Similarly, the boards consisted of straight lines and the only items were dice blocks. But here, to add insult to injury, there's the pure disappointment of potential. By all rights, the Wii U should have been the place for a party game like this to thrive. The gamepad opens up so many great options for minigame styles. I mean, using this, 3v1 minigames, which have typically been my least favorite type of minigames, could have been revamped into such cool, unique concepts. However, the Wii U gamepad isn't entirely neglected, because here we have Bowser Party. In concept, I think this is pretty neat. 4 players are trying to get to the end of the track before Bowser wrecks them, while 1 player controls Bowser and chases them using the gamepad. In minigames, Bowser also uses the gamepad. Of course, there are still problems carried over from the party mode. Chief among them here is the fact that most gameplay consists of players rolling dice and moving along the board with very little in the way of choice. Again, goodbye to strategy and decision making. But hey, the mini games should be great at least, right? Right? Let me start off by saying that the mini games that don't use the gamepad are fine. They're good, regular Mario Party mini games. But I'm talking about these Bowser games, which I assumed would make great use of the gamepad. There are only 10 mini games in this mode though. If each one of these were fairly fleshed out, that would be one thing. But these mini games are basic. On top of that, most of them don't even use the gamepad in a compelling way. First, a bunch of these games would function pretty much exactly the same without the gamepad. A regular controller would work just as well. In other cases, I guess the touchscreen functionality is a bit novel for a console game, but I don't think it adds all that much. Again, just using regular old buttons or the Wiimote's pointer would be fine. Of course, there are a couple where Bowser gets a first-person point of view via the gamepad screen, so that's kinda neat, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to be nice here, okay? But all I can think about is how this is such a missed opportunity.
Objection!
This is looking pretty bad for suspect number 1. The pieces of evidence against them, they're holding up. But there are some holes in the story. After all, the car is at fault here, but I already started drifting off topic, complaining about design decisions that don't even have to do with the car. But all these games, including the ones we just discussed, do have something else in common. They're all developed by ND Cube. If you go into a thread about newer Mario Party games, odds are good you'll see someone calling ND Cube incompetent. Why? Well, because Mario Party 1 through DS were made by Hudson Soft, but after they shut down, ND Cube took over. From there, well, we got Mario Party 9 and 10, but we also got 4 other Mario Party games. How are those games? Did they maybe improve things a bit? Oh, they're yeah, oh boy, yeah, they're just, they're woohoo! Mario Party Island Tour. At first glance, this might be looking good. There isn't a car in sight, but that assessment would be premature because, well, every single one of these boards is basically a straight line with very little in the way of player choice during the board game segment of the game. Now, every one of these boards has different rules and mechanics. Before you choose any of them, there's also this little section here that gives a breakdown of skill, luck, and minigame. What do these categories mean? Well, I get what they mean by minigame and luck. That's pretty self-explanatory. But skill? Does it mean that you play strategically? I mean, normally I'd think it's related to performance in minigames, but then what's minigame refer to? I don't know. And honestly, it doesn't matter. These ratings are nonsense. Because by and large, the outcome of the game in each of these boards is based on, you guessed it, luck. Let's look at the first board as an example. Perilous Palace Path. Here, the goal is to get to the end of the triple P. There are no coins, stars, or even mini-stars. Instead, you gain higher rolling dice blocks by performing well in minigames. So even though there's nothing really in the way of a strategy element here, if you're skilled, you will increase your odds of winning. But despite that fact, a few decisions turn this board into a total chance fest. First, there's this bridge, where players need to slap the correct button to move forward. If you get here first, there's a 2 in 3 chance of choosing incorrectly, and getting it wrong means it's crunch time, and your turn is over. Second, there's this pile of Goombas who will randomly decide to let you roam free or send you to the fiery pit of doom. As you might expect, the fiery pit of doom sets you back quite a bit. Finally, at the end, there's a Thwomp blocking the path. He has 6 health points, and every number you roll takes that many points off. So if you roll a 2, Thwomp says bye-bye to 2 of his health points, and then you've got to wait for your next turn before you can roll again. However, if someone else comes in, the Thwomp will still be missing those health points that you took off. So getting there first and failing only increases the odds of another player coming in and rolling high enough to win. I think the board has more than enough chance-based shenanigans without this crap, and it doesn't even feel good to win this way. Like, yay, I swooped in on a largely chance-based board and by chance rolled a high enough number on my dice block because you increased my chances of doing it. At least for me, that victory doesn't feel good. The other boards are similarly simplistic and also involve balancing that looks something like this. I like some a little more than others, but in all honesty, I don't want to play any of these. At best, they're mediocre distractions. At worst, they're frustrating and boring. There simply isn't enough in the way of player choice here. The car may be gone, but the game's usually still on rails. Going into this, I expected to dislike Star Rush. I mean, it's not like I've enjoyed these other 3 games. But then something strange happened. I kind of enjoyed it a bit. The main mode in this game is Toad Scramble. Here, all 4 players begin as Toads. As the match unfolds, different Mario characters will appear on the boards. Once collected, they become allies and join the player's team. Each of them has a special dice block with unique numbers. On top of that, they roll with your team, allowing the player to move further. The biggest change, however, is this move to grid-based boards. See, there's no longer a line of spaces to travel along. Instead, the boards are open, and the player will use their moves to go along the path of their choice. All players move and roll at once, resulting in quick turns. This is so much better than the car and the half-baked board rules of Island Tour. The player finally has some freedom and choice again. You can decide to go after coins, hunt down allies, fight a boss, or try to land on an item or shop space. At the end of each game, bonus coins are handed out too. So what are the coins used for? Well, at the end of the game, they're converted to stars. Since coins can be used to purchase items, there's actually an element of strategy here too. After all, do you want to use coins on items when they could be what gets you that final winning star at the end of the game? The way boss spaces are used also brings some strategy into the mix. See, landing on a boss space will cause a boss mini-game to begin. Whoever wins this game gets at least 1 star, while the other players get a small to moderate amount of coins. Here's the catch though. The person triggering the boss minigame gets to start the fight right away, but the rest of the players need to mash A to get there. The further they were from the boss space on the board when the game began, the more they'll need to mash. Of course, this head start can represent a huge advantage. As such, players need to consider whether they want to be far away from that space doing other stuff, or hang around it to get there quickly, or set it off themselves to get that advantage, even if it means letting other players collect allies and coins on the board. In addition, there are a total of 15 boards, more than in any other previous Mario Party game by a long shot. All in all, this actually feels like a well-fleshed-out mode, and it's the first one of its kind in these ND Cube Mario Party games. However, that's not to say that this mode is without its issues. To begin, yeah, there are a lot of boards, and that's good, but they're mostly lacking in personality. Each aesthetic gets repeated multiple times, and they don't have much in the way of unique mechanics or set pieces. To be fair, as they go, there are some more unique mechanics thrown into the mix, like these bullet bills that'll push players back, or this lava that will leave players trapped on small platforms. But even so, most boards are small and simplistic, resulting in short 20 to 30 minute long rounds. While this isn't necessarily a bad thing, I'd prefer at least a few boards that had a bit more meat to them. But there's a bigger problem: the boss minigames. Now, these aren't bad minigames, not at all. The issue is that there are only 12 of them. So you're gonna run through all of them real fast, and then you're gonna get a whole lot of repeats. And outside of boss minigames, there are only 26 to choose from. Unfortunately, this simple fact makes a fairly well-designed game mode get stale fast. Even so, this game seems like a great sign. So far, ND Cube has been fine on the minigame department, but not on the board department. So if they just combine these two things, well, then we should be set for life. And the next game seems like the perfect way to do just that. The Top 100's premise is simple. Take the 100 best mini-games across the Mario Party series, put them in a single game, and there you go. It should be a recipe for success, but I should probably start by saying that I know there's no way to make everyone happy with a game like this. I mean, you can't objectively look and go, ah yes, these are without a doubt the top 100 games. In addition, this isn't just about picking the top 100. It's about having a set of varied mini-games. On that front, did the top 100 succeed? Well, over on Twitch, shameless plug I know, I live stream making a tier list of all the minigames included. There were a few minigames I didn't recognize, which are at the bottom here, but I remembered the vast majority. And overall, I'd say that this is a pretty good collection, even though it definitely could have been improved. But unfortunately, that whole exercise was kinda useless. Why? Well, because the game only has one bare bones, overly simplistic board. Otherwise, you're looking at minigame modes, and the minigame modes are equally bare bones. There are no unique twists. It's just either first 3 or 5 wins, or you play through a specific pack of minigames. So regardless of what you or I think of the minigames, there isn't that much to do with them. Unless you're that rare person who's content to play through minigames without an interesting framework surrounding them, this isn't the game for you. It really sucks too, because if NDCube had brought back some boards from the previous games, this could have been a fantastic Mario Party game, the best one in ages, but instead, it's one of the worst games in the series. This one stings because I actually let myself get excited for it. Silly me, I know, but come on, can you really blame me? Individual movement and dice blocks were back on home console for the first time since Mario Party 8. Actually, overall, the game looked a lot like the older Mario Party games. Beyond that, the Joy-Con controllers, despite their drift, seemed perfect for some new minigame styles that weren't possible on other hardware. All in all, this looked like a return to form for a childhood favorite of mine, and that rustled my jimmies in all the right ways. But my optimism was foolish. Now, I know some people really like this game, and if you do, that's fair enough. For me though, this game is just, It was fun for a couple games, and then the cracks started to show. Of course, there are the obvious things like the online mode, which only lets you play the minigames. Oh wait, sorry, no. It only lets you play the 10 minigames they let you play, which is just, why? Did Nintendo forget to purchase their servers with the money we're giving them for a monthly subscription? Oh no, this is turning into another Nintendo hate video. I better get back on track. Another common complaint is that there are only 4 boards. Considering that every other home console Mario Party game had at least 6, yeah, I can see where people are coming from with that too. However, I think the game's biggest problems run way deeper than this stuff. First off, in the Hudson Soft Mario Party games, stars were generally 20 coins each, but now they cost 10. Unfortunately, Super also hands out a lot of coins. For example, blue spaces still net the player 3 coins. Before that only got you 15% of a star's cost, but now it gets you 30. Also, after minigames, the first place player gets 8 coins. So now if you win one minigame and land on 1 blue space, congrats, you've got enough for the star. On top of that, the second and third place players in the minigames get 4 and 2 coins respectively. This way, the game is constantly throwing money the player's way. Even worse, golden pipes, which take players directly to the star, only cost 10 coins as well? As such, in all my play sessions with this game, I almost never ran into a situation where a player didn't have enough money for the star, and rarely ran into a situation where a player couldn't afford a golden pipe, warp to the star, and then buy it. Because of this, the game becomes all about who can move around the board fastest, or who happens to be closest to the stars when they spawn. This is where the ally system comes in, which you might recognize from Star Rush. At first, I thought bringing back the system was really great. It allowed for a simple way of strategizing. Like, now you might have a particular space you want to land on, so you've got to look through all your different dice blocks and figure out which one will get you to land on it, or get you closest to it, or increase your chances, or whatever. Basically, these dice blocks give you options. But it's not as good as it seems, because these allies also roll with you. Meaning that as soon as you collect even one ally, trying to use these individual dice strategically becomes an exercise in futility. These guys are all too often gonna screw up your roll. On Star Rush's grid-based boards, this wasn't as much of a problem since the player could loop around. But here, when I often want to land on a specific space where I need the exact right number to get there, something that was mildly annoying in Star Rush becomes a massive oversight. Next up, the bonus stars. In the first 5 Mario parties, these were always the same at the end of each game. There was the minigame star, coin star, and happening star. If you get the most coins from minigames, you get the minigame star. If you had the most coins at any one time in the game, you get the coin star. If you landed on the most happening spaces, you get the happening star. These stars always remain the same, meaning that players could plan around them. Meanwhile, future Hudson Soft Mario Party games messed around with these a bit. 6, for example, swapped out the coin star for the orb star, which was given to the player who used the most items. 7, 8, and DS also added in some new ones, but there were never that many options for what could happen. Basically, the player could still keep these potential bonus stars in mind when choosing what to do. But in Super Mario Party, well, that's not how it goes. Instead, there's a massive pool of potential bonus stars the game pulls from. A lot of them aren't based on anything the player can plan for either. Like there's one where it will just give you a star because you had the right partner with you, and it doesn't remain consistent. It's just whoever it decides is the right partner that game. So yeah, no planning for stuff like that. Beyond that, you can no longer turn them off, even though that was a basic feature in every Hudson Soft Mario Party game. Again, another system that makes everything about luck. Now, I've complained a lot, but overall, with one update, I could enjoy this game. All it would take is giving me the option to set which bonus stars will appear and allowing me to change the price for stars and items. That's it. As for its quality now, well, at least the mini-games are great, I guess. But it's hard not to be disappointed when this game feels like it could have been so much more, and when despite being so close to greatness, it falls amazingly short. This isn't looking good, folks. Not at all. In fact, we may have found our culprit. But we can't be too hasty. No, there are still 2 more suspects tangled up in this spicy web we weave. See, there's an obvious question I've been neglecting till now. Why would NDQ Mario Party games be bad? So I thought that maybe, just maybe, the history of the game developers working there would show us something about that. The most obvious person to look at? The director. And lo and behold, the same man directed Mario Party 9, 10, Star Rush, and Super. Even more frightening, he's not just the director of these games. He's the president of ND Cube. Shuichiro Nishia. Once I discovered this, I went on the hunt for interviews. I wanted to know anything I could about Nishia's game design philosophy. Sure enough, I found what I needed in an interview with Nintendo Life. Nishia talks about many things in this interview. He talks about how hard it is to ensure balance in these sorts of games, about the origin of the Bowser Party mode in Mario Party 10, and about making all these minigames. But he also talks about the infamous car. And what he has to say is, well, to say the least, it greatly perturbs me. Here's the interviewer's question. Could you tell us more about the pacing of a typical game in Mario Party 10? For example, why do you travel around in a car together? And what other features have you implemented to help keep the flow of gameplay at a good pace? Nishia's response? In past installments, everyone would move separately through the board. As a result, the actions of other players often didn't affect you. You could just look at the TV screen when it was your turn and during the minigames. In Mario Party 10, though, players move together in a car, so each player's action will affect the others, meaning you'll need to keep an eye on the TV screen. This way, everyone's constantly involved, and we keep the flow of the game at a good pace. Upon reading this, I was floored. This makes no sense to me, because in the past Mario parties, the actions of other players usually affected you. Players could use items on you, they could try to steal stars and coins from you, and beyond that, knowing what other players were up to was important because it would alter your own strategy and decision making. So sure, you weren't actually moving in those turns, but those turns still had a major impact on your game. From here, my mind spiraled. Could I have found him? Could I have found the man who killed the party? But then I looked into it more. I looked into what Shuichiro Nishia has made. And he didn't start working on Mario Party with the 9th game. No, he started all the way back with the 2nd game. Not as the director there, but as a developer. And the first Mario Party game he did direct? It's none other than my favorite, Mario Party 6. This was a startling revelation. How could the same man who directed this make these? But once I thought about it, the signs were there from the start. From Mario Party 6, I mean. See, the first Mario Party played around with the rules a bit more. Half of the boards had some gimmick that altered play pretty substantially, while the other half involved purchasing a star on the board, which would then move, and so on. From Mario Party 2 through 5, that board design became the default. 20 coins per star, play mini-games to get coins, move around on the boards, with plenty of choices and branching paths. Those were the eternal truths of the party. But Mario Party 6 is different. First, there's this day-night mechanic where every 3 turns, time changes from day to, well, night. Something similar appeared in one of Mario Party 2's boards, but in 6, this is applied to every board. When time changes, certain mini-games change with it too. The vast majority of these changes are aesthetic, but with some mini-games, the game's objective itself changes. For example, there's What Goes Up. In the daytime version, the objective is to get as high as you can by jumping on clouds and Koopa Troopas. However, in the nighttime version, the objective is to fall through these obstacles and reach the ground before the other players. Meanwhile, Conveyor Belt is a 1v3 minigame, where during the daytime, the lone player is in a cloud, trying to hit the team of 3 with lightning bolts while they avoid spikes that appear on this conveyor belt. But during the night, the roles reverse, and now the team of 3 are in the clouds dropping lightning bolts, and the one is trying to escape from them. However, this isn't all the day-night cycle does. Something about each board changes as well. Some of these changes are relatively minor, such as Pink Boo coming out at night, or this turning pathway changing directions in Egad's garage, or these flowers opening and closing in Towering Treetop. But there are other changes from day to night that radically alter play. First, there's Fair Square. On this one, the star space never moves. During the day, stars cost 20 coins. During the night, however, the price ranges from 5 coins to 40 coins. Additionally, players can buy multiple stars at the same time. So now players will often have to decide whether they want to just pay 20 bucks and get some guaranteed stars, or wait till night and risk having to pay a whole lot more. Second, Snowflake Lake. This board has no star spaces. As such, there's no way to buy them. So then, how do you get them? Well, every player starts off with some stars. In order to get more, you need to steal them by riding into other players with a chain chomp. The chain chomps are located around the board's perimeter, and during the day, the player can spend 20 bucks to use 1 dice block to move the chain chomp and charge ahead. During the night, however, the price of dice blocks are reduced to 10 coins, and the player can purchase up to 3 blocks per ride. The board also has a ton of dual spaces in this inner circle, which gives players another way to steal stars. However, at night, this area is inaccessible. All of these decisions result in a board where the player constantly needs to assess other players' positions and where there are always options. For example, you might want to spend the last turn of daytime getting to this middle ring, in an attempt to avoid a nighttime chain chomp bum rush. But then you're also making it harder to get more stars yourself, because it's going to be more difficult to get to the chain chomps and ride them to glory. There's also the question of whether you should use dual spaces to steal coins or stars. Basically, all this is to say that despite the radical change in objectives, this board cleverly keeps a great balance between skill, luck, and strategy. Third, Clockwork Castle. During the day, players go clockwise around the board, chasing after DK to get a star. However, in the evening, DK gets replaced by Bowser, and everyone's movement gets reversed. From here, Bowser chases the players. If he reaches them, he steals a star. This brings in the risk-reward element of trying to get close to the big donk himself, but also when there's 1 turn left in the daytime, sometimes it'll be better to get away from him and avoid the impending Bowser doom. As for the final board, it doesn't do as much with the day-night cycle, but it's still not a typical Mario Party board. This is Castaway Bay, and it has the same premise as the Mario's Rainbow Castle board from Mario Party 1. Here, players are led down a path to DK or Bowser. If DK's there, then you can buy a star. If Bowser's there, then he'll steal a star. Afterward, you go back to the start and begin the trek around again. Because of this, you constantly need to keep track of where other players are, what items they have, what spaces they might land on, and you get the picture. Basically, sometimes it's best to rush towards DK, while at other times you might want to hang back a bit to avoid getting Bowsered up. I love the creativity on display in this game. It maintains that balance between skill, luck, and strategy, while still doing something to keep the party fresh and exciting. Plus, I understand why Nishia and the other developers wanted to do this. I mean, Nishia himself had been working on the series for 6 years as part of the team that continually cranked out title after title. And this experimentation would continue in Nishia's next games, in Mario Party 7 and 8. Most of these boards bend the rules. While I don't enjoy every one of these experiments, there are standout boards. In particular, I love the gimmicks of 7's Windmillville and 8's Tycoon Town. The boards have some different rules, but both involve investing money into buildings. If you have the most money in a building, then it becomes yours and you earn stars from it. This results in a whole lot of backstabbing, stealing, and screwing with other players. It's awesome. It also makes the process of getting stars a massive strategic endeavor itself, and I'd love to see a board type like this return. In the end, it's clear to me that Nishia isn't incompetent. Far from it. He's been involved in many games that I enjoy playing, and particularly in one of my favorite party games of all time. If it weren't for these later games, I would think of him as instrumental in the life of the party, not the death of the party. So again, we're left with more questions than answers. But fortunately, in the darkness of misunderstanding, you can sometimes find the answer. And I think I know just what we've been missing, what the final piece of this filthy puzzle has in store for us. There's this interview Nintendo published where Satoru Iwata chats with some of the members of the Wii Party development team. These 4 people are members of ND Cube, and in particular, Shuichiro Nishia himself is there. Partway through this interview, Iwata says something very telling. I worked on development of Kirby and Super Smash Bros. We couldn't bring out a new game every year, so I've been watching you guys with some surprise. Here, there's an implicit question. How are you doing it? Well, there's talk of new developers joining the team and bringing fresh ideas with them. But then Hiroshi Sato from ND Cube's software development and planning department pipes up, saying, at each juncture, in order to avoid a rut, we were trying to make big changes like not using dice and coming up with different rules. There's nothing inherently wrong with this, but as I went further into this interview, a fact became clear. It's not just Nishia who's been working on this series and other party games for a long time. No, many members of Hudson Soft transferred over to ND Cube and kept making those games they had already been making for such a stretch of time. Really, imagine working on the same types of games for about 20 years. That's, I don't know. I guess there are some people who enjoy doing the same sort of thing over and over again or iterating on the same basic idea, but I sure know I'd want to change things up. In fact, I know I'd want to change things up sometimes just for the sake of changing them up. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to 100% know who's pushing for new Mario Party games so frequently. I mean, it's possible that many people working at ND Cube like this brisk pace and want to keep making new games. It's also possible that the corporate overlords of Nintendo have told them that they need to make new games at this rate. Then there's the possibility that it's somewhere in between. Either way though, this schedule, it's insane. The only real gap here appeared from 2008 to 2011. And ND Cube made Wii Party in 2010 and Wii Play Motion in 2011. And who directed Wii Party? Well, Nishia. And who worked on it? Many people from the Mario Party staff. There really hasn't been any substantial breathing room here. It's just one party after another. Now it all makes sense. The direction of these games, the half-baked ideas, and my feelings about ND Cube. Just one little quote, and everything clicks into place. These games have nuggets of greatness, or at least potential. Actually, in going over these games, I skimmed over plenty of side modes that are fun, and I did that because, well, I can't spend too much time playing them before moving on to the next thing. I mean, Mario Party 9 has a couple great minigame modes, but instead of developing those ideas, there's a sense that these games were rushed out to meet some deadline. That there was no time to think that much about which ideas worked or didn't. That there wasn't the opportunity to polish the stuff up. And that sometimes changes were made because 20-ish years into a series, you're gonna just want to make some changes. This is the only conclusion I can come to. That the people making Mario Party need a break. Or at least, that they need the time to make a truly great game. Because really, right from the beginning, Mario Party has been treated like a cash cow, like an expected event every year or two, or sometimes even multiple times a year. Sure, I enjoyed those games, but that was only because they followed a formula. That way it was possible to pump them out and still have them work. But that doesn't continue to work when the people making these games have grown tired of the formula and want to do something new. Because I don't think Mario Party has gotten bad simply because of change, and I also don't think ND Cube is unable to make a good Mario Party game. ND Cube is made up of the people working there, of the designers who work hard on these games, and many of those designers getting crapped on by Mario Party fans online are the very same people those fans praise for making the older games. So no, this isn't the car, and this isn't ND Cube, and it isn't that Shuichiro Nishia isn't able to make a great game. It's that these developers need time, and I sincerely hope they get the time they need to make something great again. If they get that chance, if they get that opportunity to polish something up, work on it for a little while, and not just pump out another game, well, I'd love that. And I think many fans would love that, and I think they can make something awesome. Maybe, just maybe, the party isn't completely dead yet. All right, now it's time. Time for the sponsorship with Skillshare. Skillshare has thousands of classes to help creative and curious people learn new skills, experiment with art forms, and explore their passions. They have classes on animation, film and video production, music creation, and more. Now, if you're subscribed, you might have noticed something. I can take a long time to make videos. So I figured I should check out one of Skillshare's many classes related to productivity. As such, I watched Kevin Sisker's class, Productivity Today, Managing Attention in the Digital Age. He has a lot of great tips here about organizing yourself and keeping on task, and I hope those tips will help my very distractible brain stay on task as I try to get some videos done for you in the coming weeks. I'd also recommend the class to anyone out there who, like me, has some trouble focusing sometimes. Another thing I really like about Skillshare, though, is that there are no ads. And with an annual subscription, it's less than $10 a month. Additionally, the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a free trial to the premium membership. So click that link if you want to learn some stuff, and I hope to see ya for the next video.